power of awakening. It is not merely a spiritual phrase or some distant poetic aspiration. It is a profound shift in the way you experience life, the way you breathe, the way you relate, the way you exist. And when this awakening begins to stir within a human being, something very significant happens, not only inside them, but around them. People often ask me, Sadhguru, why do those who awaken seem to distance themselves from family? Why do they pull away from the people who love them? Today, I want to explore this with you, not as an abstract philosophy, but as a lived experience, something that has shaped my own journey and the journey of countless seekers across time. You see, when you awaken, life does not change, you change. And because you change, everything you touch, everything you see, everything you relate to begins to rearrange itself. It is like walking into your home one day with new eyes. Suddenly, you notice details you never saw before. Patterns you had been trapped in unconsciously. Layers of expectation woven tightly around your existence. Awakening does not create distance. It simply reveals the distance that was always there, but conveniently hidden beneath rituals we call love, duty, and identity. When I was young, I watched people cling so desperately to family, clinging not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of being unsupported, fear of having no one to validate their existence. But when awakening dawns, these fears dissolve like mist in sunlight. And when fear dissolves, attachment does not have any soil left to grow in. Suddenly, the relationships you once believed were built on love begin to expose their deeper foundations. Many people do not like this moment, because it shows them that their love was conditional, transactional, or tied to roles rather than to true connection. Awakening is not a rejection of family. It is an invitation to love without distortion, without ownership, without the invisible chains that so often masquerade as affection. But to arrive there, a certain space is needed. A space where your inner clarity can deepen without being constantly pulled back into old patterns. This is why many awakened beings step slightly away, not out of coldness, but out of necessity. They are not abandoning anyone. They are simply refusing to continue living within a structure that demands unconsciousness. Many families, not all, but many behave like gravitational fields. They pull you back into who you were, not who you are becoming. Have you noticed this? You may be growing, expanding, exploring new dimensions of yourself. But the moment you walk back into a familiar room, suddenly you shrink. You become the child they knew, the sibling they framed, the role they assigned, long before you discovered deeper layers of your humanity. This is not malice. It is inertia, the natural resistance of social structures to personal evolution. Awakening disturbs this inertia. It disrupts the narrative. You begin to see that not every opinion about you belongs to you. Not every expectation placed upon you resonates with your current path. And when you start to live by inner authenticity rather than outer approval, conflict naturally arises. Some people will say you have changed, and they are right. Others will say you are distancing yourself, and they are guessing. What is actually happening is simple. Your consciousness is reorganizing your life. If your awakening is genuine, you will not run away from family. You will simply stop performing for them. You will stop being who they want you to be. And when performance drops, relationships built on performance become uncomfortable. In that discomfort, a sort of distance appears. A space where you are no longer entangled, no longer defined, no longer confined. When I speak of distance, I am not talking about physical separation. You may still live in the same house, still share meals, still participate in the daily rhythms of family life. But internally, there will be a shift, a stunning, liberating, irreversible shift. You will no longer operate from compulsion. You will operate from clarity. You will no longer cling. You will care. You will no longer obey. You will understand. And this makes all the difference. Awakening does not reduce love. It purifies it. It does not break families. It breaks illusions, and illusions are very fragile. When truth enters, they cannot survive. Some people are not ready for this. They feel threatened when you stop playing the old games. They may accuse you, misunderstand you, criticize your choices. They may say, you have become selfish. But understand this. Choosing consciousness over conformity is not selfishness, it is integrity. It is the highest responsibility one can take in this life. If you are listening to this right now, perhaps part of you is already in this transition, already sensing that your inner world no longer fits the old molds. And if that is true, pause for a moment. Breathe. Feel the truth of your own experience, rather than the noise of external expectations. If these words resonate, share your reflection, not for validation, but because speaking your truth strengthens it within you. Now, let us go deeper. Let us explore why awakening feels like a rupture, a tearing away from the familial cocoon, and why this rupture is not a tragedy, but a doorway. This doorway is not always comfortable. When awakening begins to move within you, it is like standing at the edge of a vast inner landscape, familiar enough to feel safe, yet unknown enough to feel unsettling. Most people prefer the comfort of the familiar, even when it limits them. But those who awaken cannot remain in that comfort. Something inside pushes them to step beyond, to breathe a different kind of air, to live from a different center of gravity. This shift is what creates tension with family. You see, families often function like ecosystems. Every person has a role, and the stability of the whole system depends on everyone continuing to play their part. When one person begins to break the pattern, the system reacts. Not because they do not love you, but because your transformation threatens the equilibrium. And this is precisely why awakened beings seem to withdraw. Not to escape love, but to stop participating in unconscious dynamics that no longer align with their truth. If you look honestly, you will see that most family conflicts come not from lack of love, but from clashing expectations. You should be this, you should do that. You should behave in a way that makes us comfortable. But awakening is a rebellion against all shoulds. It is the birth of authenticity, and authenticity cannot be negotiated. It cannot be diluted. It cannot be packaged to please anyone, not even those you cherish. Many people fear this stage. They ask me, Sadhguru, if I awaken, will I lose my family? Understand this, you do not lose anyone. You simply stop belonging to them in the way they are used to. Belonging, as most people know it, is a sweet word for bondage. But the awakened belong to existence itself. They belong to life, to truth, to a deeper inner rhythm that no external bond can confine. Still, this does not mean you stop loving your family. In fact, love grows. It becomes more spacious, more compassionate, more inclusive. But it is not possessive. It is not demanding. It is not suffocating. When you awaken, love becomes like the wind. You cannot hold it, but you can feel it in every breath. And when your love becomes like this, some people feel abandoned, simply because they are not used to love without attachment. But if they stay close long enough, they will see that what you offer now is something far more profound than what you offered before. Sometimes, a small distance is needed for this new love to express itself. Distance creates clarity. It allows you to see without distortion, without emotional turbulence. And this clarity is essential not only for your growth, but for the growth of those around you. If your family can understand your transformation, beautiful things will happen. If they cannot, still you must walk your path. Because betraying your own awakening is the worst betrayal of all. Let me tell you something very simple. You cannot awaken and remain the same person in the same structures with the same compulsions. Life does not work that way. Transformation demands realignment. And realignment often looks like distance to those who are not transforming with you. But inside you, it will feel like expansion, like a space opening in your chest, a freedom blooming in your awareness, a quiet strength rising from the depths. When this happens, do not apologize, do not shrink. Do not try to fit back into molds that your consciousness has already outgrown. Instead, stand firm in your clarity. Speak gently, but stand firm. Love deeply, but stand firm. Hold no resentment, no judgment, no superiority. Just a simple, unwavering commitment to your inner evolution. And if you feel guilty, many people do pause and observe that guilt. It does not come from truth. It comes from conditioning. It comes from the fear of disappointing others. But awakening is not about pleasing anyone. It is about becoming fully alive. It is about realizing the immense possibility that you are. And if this realization requires a little space, let there be space. Let there be a gentle breathing room around your being. As you walk this path, engage with others who understand awakening. Share your experiences, your challenges, your questions. Even something as simple as leaving a comment or reflection can anchor your clarity and encourage someone else who is walking the same delicate line between love and liberation. Now let us continue deeper. Let us look at the inner mechanics of why awakened beings outgrow familial identities, why selfhood expands beyond the boundaries of blood, and how this expansion transforms the very nature of relationship. When awakening touches you, identity begins to loosen. This is not a philosophical idea, it is an experiential dissolving. Everything you once believed yourself to be, your name, your history, your wounds, your roles, your achievements, all of it begins to feel like clothing you can simply take off. And when this happens, the question naturally arises. If I am not these roles, then who am I? Family is usually where these roles are the tightest. The family system depends on fixed identities. The obedient child, the responsible sibling, the dependable parent, the quiet one, the rebellious one. Whatever mask you wore, it served a function within that ecosystem. But when awakening begins expanding your sense of self, those masks become suffocating. You cannot breathe inside them anymore. This is why awakened beings appear detached. It is not detachment from people, it is detachment from roles. It is detachment from unconscious scripts. It is detachment from expectations that no longer resonate with their truth. When these layers fall away, a different kind of presence emerges. A presence that does not participate in drama. A presence that does not swing with emotional turbulence. A presence that is calm, not because it is indifferent, but because it is deeply rooted. Many families do not know how to relate to this. They mistake neutrality for coldness. They mistake clarity for arrogance. They mistake silence for distance. But the awakened are not distant. They are simply no longer reactive. They are no longer operating from fear, guilt, obligation, or the need to comply. This inner freedom can be misunderstood by those who still live within such frameworks. Let me tell you, awakening reveals the invisible contracts we have been bound to. Contracts like, I must make them happy. I must behave in a way that does not upset them. I must fit into the story they have of me. But these contracts are signed under unconsciousness, and when consciousness rises, you revoke them, not as rebellion, but as liberation. Some people ask, Sadhguru, should I leave my family to awaken? No, that is not the point. You do not need to leave anything. Awakening does not require abandonment, it requires alignment. If your presence is truthful, if your inner state is stable, you can be anywhere. But as you grow, you may choose to spend less time in environments that pull you back into old patterns. This is not rejection, it is simply wisdom. It is choosing inner growth over outer approval. And sometimes, your very growth becomes a mirror for others. It reflects their own limitations, their own attachments, their own fears. Not everyone enjoys looking into such a mirror. But if you remain steady, compassionate, and authentic, even those who resist you now may one day understand. Transformation has a strange way of radiating outward. Slowly, subtly, inevitably. You may notice that as your awareness expands, your emotional dependence shrinks. You do not look to others to complete you. You do not need their validation to feel steady. You do not require constant reassurance. This psychological independence can feel threatening to those who relied on your dependence for their own sense of importance. But remember, you are not responsible for managing other people's insecurities. You are responsible for honoring your inner clarity. Awakening also changes the way you communicate. Instead of reacting, you respond. Instead of arguing, you observe. Instead of trying to be understood, you simply express truthfully and allow people to receive it in whatever way they can. This shift alone can transform or temporarily destabilize family dynamics. Some relationships will deepen, others will loosen. But all of it is part of the natural recalibration that consciousness brings. If you are experiencing this right now, breathe. You are not breaking anything. You are simply maturing spiritually. You are becoming more authentic. You are discovering the vastness of who you are beyond the layers of conditioning. And as you evolve, I invite you to share your journey. Because your clarity might become someone else's doorway. Let us go even deeper now. Let us explore how awakening changes the very chemistry of love, why awakened beings redefine connection, and how this redefinition transforms even the most intimate relationships. When love matures through awakening, it becomes something entirely different from the emotional entanglement most people call love. It becomes spacious, steady, luminous. It no longer demands anything. It simply flows. And when your love becomes like this, something beautiful happens. You no longer depend on anyone, yet you care more deeply than ever before. This paradox is difficult for many families to understand. Most people are accustomed to love, expressed through worry, attachment, fear of loss, and mutual dependence. So when you stand before them with a heart that loves without clinging, they may feel you have withdrawn. But in reality, you have stopped holding them inside the cage of your needs. You have freed them, and yourself. This freedom can feel like distance to those who are still bound by emotional habits, but over time, it becomes a presence they can trust. Awakening does not make you cold, it makes you clear. It does not make you distant, it makes you boundless. It does not make you reject people. It makes you embrace life in a way that includes everything, not just your immediate circle. But this expansion can be misinterpreted by those who believe love should remain small, familiar, and predictable. You may notice that after awakening, you listen differently. You see differently. You relate differently. You no longer enter conversations to win or defend. You enter to understand. You no longer try to prove anything. You simply allow truth to speak through you. Your presence becomes calm, like a still lake that reflects everything without distortion. Some people are drawn to this stillness. Others feel uncomfortable because it exposes their own inner noise. This is natural. When your inner world becomes spacious, it silently invites others to look at themselves. Not everyone is ready for that. Some will resist, some will criticize, but some, perhaps only one or two, will begin to open. And these openings can ripple across generations, healing patterns that have been carried unconsciously for centuries. Many awakened beings become catalysts for transformation in their families, not by preaching or correcting, but simply by existing in a different state of consciousness. Your clarity becomes a quiet teaching. Your serenity becomes a silent blessing. Your authenticity becomes permission for others to explore their own truth. But for this to happen, you must remain steady. You must not shrink to fit old expectations. You must not dim your light to make others comfortable. Sometimes, distance is required to maintain this steadiness. You may need time alone, space to integrate, freedom to grow without interruption. This temporary separation is not abandonment, it is incubation. And when you return with a deeper presence, a clearer mind, a more loving heart. Let me tell you something essential. Awakening is not about leaving people behind. It is about rising so deeply within yourself that you can truly uplift others. But you cannot uplift anyone if you keep sinking back into old identities. Growth requires courage, expansion requires clarity, and love, true love, requires freedom. If you are walking this path, do not be afraid of the space that appears between you and your family. That space is sacred. It is where your new being takes root. It is where your old pain unravels. It is where your inner truth becomes strong enough to hold itself in any situation. And from this space, you will one day be able to love without fear, without need, without distortion. So breathe. Trust the process. Trust the intelligence of your unfolding. And if these words resonate with you, if they stir something quiet and ancient within your chest, take a moment to reflect, or even share your insight. Not for approval, but because truth grows stronger when expressed. As we come to the close of this journey, let me leave you with this. Awakening is not a departure, it is a homecoming. It is returning to the vastness of who you truly are, beyond blood, beyond identity, beyond history. And when you stand in that vastness, you can finally hold your family and the entire world, not with grasping hands, but with an open heart. Remember, Distance is not the opposite of love. Unconsciousness is. When you awaken, you do not walk away from your family. You simply stop walking away from yourself. And in that profound inner return, love becomes something boundless, something that can never be lost, never be diminished, never be confined. This is the power of awakening. This is the quiet revolution of consciousness. This is the true liberation of the human heart.